Aloha mai kako. Welcome to the Keomau Center for Sustainable Island Food Systems 6 Brown Bag Speaker Series event. I'm Ioane, and on behalf of the center, I want to mahalo all of our guests and presenters for taking the time to attend today. Please scan the QR code in the bottom left corner of our current slide to see previous events that we've hosted through one of our partners' web pages, Transforming Hawaii's Food Systems Together. And stay tuned for the recording of this event, which will be posted and sent out to all of our registered guests within a few days. I'm also going to be posting links in the chat to access this page along with all of our panelists' relevant content during today's webinar event. The speaker series is just one of the projects that we're working on here at the Keomau Center for Sustainable Island Food Systems, which is an initiative within the University of Hawaii system co-directed by both Dr. Albie Miles and Dr. Noah Lincoln. One of our major goals here is to collaborate with folks at UH and across the entire food systems landscape in Hawaii to highlight the work being done by organizations to improve our local food system. And this includes addressing topics such as food security, justice and equity within the food system, ecological sustainability, and food system policy, to name a few. Oftentimes, this work is being conducted within silos, so we're here trying to make sure these connections are built and maintained with important relationships and sharing the work that are being done, the work that's being done by these organizations with the people who it significantly affects. Overall, we just want to better identify what the university can do to support and improve food systems transformation in Hawaii. In addition to hosting events such as this, the Keomau Center has been established to engage in a number of activities, including research, data collection, education, community engagement, policy analysis, and other monitoring activities seen here on this slide. The intention is really to create and maintain the social, intellectual, economic, and political spaces that we feel are necessary to drive systemic change in a forward direction for Hawaii's food system to better measure and realize food sustainability goals. Many of the materials will be available as soon as we finish building out our website, so please be on the lookout in your email inboxes as we grow and continue to share resources and materials. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. We're joined by 3 different guests on the topic of agriculture and food systems education. First up is Lydi Bernal. She's the Oʻahu Farm to School Extension Agent with the University of Hawaii at Mānoa's College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resilience. Next up, we have Laura Ediger, Director of Strategy and Operations at GoFarm Hawaii. And third, we have Jeannette Soon-Ludes, who is the Executive Director at Māla and the Project Lead for the Hawaii Island School Garden Network. Just a few housekeeping items for today. All the audience interaction is limited to the Q&A feature within the Zoom platform, and any questions not addressed within the allotted time can be answered via email from our panelist guests following following the event's conclusion. So about now, each presenter will take roughly 15 minutes to provide a brief summary of their respective organization's mission and vision. Then they'll discuss past initiatives and accomplishments, current priorities, core activities of the organization, some 3 to 5 year future goals, key challenges faced within, key challenges faced in advancing the mission and agenda of the org, as well as ways that they're working with other organizations and community and how their impact is being measured. So without any further delay, I'll hand it over to Lydi.
Aloha, mai kako. It's great to be with you all. Thanks for this opportunity to share. My name is Lydi Bernal, and as Ioane mentioned, I'm a junior extension agent with UHCTAR, which has just updated its name, University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resilience, formerly Human Resources. So exciting evolution there. My focus is Oʻahu Farm to School. I've been doing this work in farm to school for almost 20 years, starting as a garden educator in the garden with kids. And this is one of the Olelo no Eo, based on my experiences there, that continues to drive this work for me. Ua ola loko I ke aloha. Love is imperative to one's mental and physical well-being. So school gardens and healthy local food are part of how we develop and sustain and ensure total well-being for all people of Hawaii and places. This work that I'm going to be sharing about is built on close to 15 years of collaboration as a statewide network called the Hawaii Farm to School Network. Also updated our name recently from Hawaii Farm to School, Hui, in order to be more grammatically correct in Olelo, Hawaii. So we are the Hawaii Farm to School Network. Many partner organizations have been working together to advance the farm to school movement. And it's really come from development of island level networks. And I'll talk about Oʻahu's network a bit. And it's exciting that CTAR is now investing in farm to school through these 2 extension agent positions, myself on Oʻahu and Christina Kakpal on Molokai. These are temporary positions. And so one of our visions is that these will be permanent and we will be able to expand the number of folks that are doing this work. We really envision farm to school as a driving force for community health, resilience, and sustainable island food systems for all. And our mission is to improve nutrition, food access, and total well-being by addressing community level needs for implementing farm to school activities. And here on the right, you can see what we mean when we say farm to school, which is very comprehensive of school gardening and farming on campuses, any sort of education related to food, agriculture, nutrition, visiting farms, tasting local foods, and then ultimately local school food, which means transforming what is served to students on a daily basis through their meal programs. This is a snapshot of the work that I am doing on Oʻahu in my role. One of them is teacher professional development. Another is the Ho'opili'ai, or Hawaii Harvest of the Month program, and the statewide and island level networks. And we'll take a look at each of these. This is a map of the DOE public schools on Oahu, non-charters. This data comes from the annual safety and wellness survey. And many years ago, we were able to help add a question, does your school have a garden? So as you can see, many of them do, in fact, most. Statewide, it's over 80% of DOE public schools that have garden programs. Now, whether they are for all students at the school or just individual classes, that does vary. But over 60% of Hawaii's public schools are located here on Oahu, 185 of them. It's a big scope for one person. So rather than being very hands-on at each individual school, one of my approaches is to train teachers. So these are some pictures of courses that I've helped to lead as an instructor. These are all ulu focused. I'll talk about more about that. But as you can see, they're really based on experiential education for teachers so that they can then take that to their students. These are also credit earning courses for teachers. So they earn professional development credits toward increase in their pay scale. It requires implementation of standards-based learning and other frameworks like Naho Pena A'o and Aina Aloha competencies that the DOE does emphasize. But here they're cooking ulu, eating ulu, and learning how to care for ulu in an agroforestry setting and a farm setting. Quick look at the 5 different credit earning DOE courses that I've taught that are all farm to school related. We don't have to dig into these numbers, but there is a very high demand among DOE teachers for this credit earning AINA-based opportunities. So Grow Oahu was actually in partnership with GoFarm, where we had teachers coming out to GoFarm sites and learning basic gardening and composting, food safety practices. We've done several cohorts of the All About Ulu or breadfruit course. Grace was in response to Maui and just using gardens for resilience. And then now we've developed a new credit earning course for DOE teachers on Hawaii's native plants. Looking at some of the feedback from the teacher PD offerings, that, you know, teachers just have great responses, and we're also showing how it's impacting their teaching practices, both comfort level to apply place-based and aina-based education, and then knowledge about specific topics like ulu, from zero knowledge before the course to very knowledgeable after. Lots of teachers have told us these are the best PDs ever. So that's encouraging. Along with the teacher PD, we are helping to do more plantings in schools. And again, this one project focused specifically on ulu. The teacher PD and ulu plantings were supported by DLNR Kaulunani, the Urban and Community Forestry Program. But over the last school year, we have planted almost 60 ulu trees at 22 sites across Oʻahu, most of them being DOE schools. And with an average of about 300 pounds of ulu being grown per year, that's once the trees reach maturity, 18,000 pounds of food per year estimated for different communities across the island. Also have offered additional skill building workshops so that we're building the capacity of teachers as well as custodians to care for the ulu trees on campuses, because it is the responsibility of each school, along with support from folks like me. On to the next program that I wanted to highlight is Ho'opiliai, or Unifying Keiki with Hawaii's Food Crops through the Hawaii Harvest of the Month program. This involves hands-on farm-to-school education, and particularly including tasting. So here you can see students growing food, preparing it, and then eating it. That's really where it all comes together. Here's a look at how this project developed. We launched a Ulu Education Toolkit. That's a searchable database of Ulu-related educational materials, then expanded to the Hawaii Farm to School Toolkit. So there's actually 11 crops in this local crops library with recipes, lesson plans, videos, growing information, etc. Then we developed this idea of the sampler boxes, and I'll talk a little bit more about those, but we've been expanding this effort, which is really food hubs to schools, okay? So starting with Hawaii Ulu Cooperative, that's been a longtime partner in the Ulu education efforts. These are 2 types of boxes that schools can order, and we've raised funds so that they're free to teachers in schools, and supporting local food hubs. So classroom boxes are take-home baggies that the kids can bring to their families. Cafeteria boxes, the idea is it's being prepared for tasting at school for students to sample. Not necessarily part of the meal program just yet. That's a whole other aspect of the work. And as you can see, this project focuses right now on kupuna crops, kalo, uala, and ulu, along with palaʻai. So these are staples that the Hawaii Ulu Co-op is aggregating from, I believe it's over 160 farmers across 4 islands, if I'm correct, and through this program, getting this food directly to students in a recipe-ready form. Quick look at the impact. We've doubled it in the last 2 years, and just really amazing feedback from teachers, with students being excited and eager to experience cooking the food and eating it, and even this being a life-changing experience for students. So excited to continue growing this program. Looking at current priorities and future initiatives, just building on the programs that I've been developing over the last 2 years in this role. So consistently offering the credit earning courses, and then continuing to make these offerings statewide. There's, like I said, a big demand and not enough leadership capacity to lead the courses right now. So we want to build that. And along with that, continue to expand the plantings in the schools. So now that we've got ulu trees in place, we also are starting a program to make these into mini agroforests on campuses. In terms of Ho'opiliai, I look forward to working with all food hubs. So, you know, there are at least 14 hubs across the islands through the food hub Hui, and expanding the types of crops we're able to distribute based on our Hawaii Harvest of the Month local crops library and all the educational resources that can be paired with those food distributions. And then continuing to align and integrate with the Hawaii Department of Education School Food Services branch. So, of course, a lot of work going on there to increase local, and then how we align the educational aspects is something we're working on, as well as growing the movement through the statewide and Oʻahu Farm to School network. So quick look at that one. There's so many educators. A lot of other island networks focus on networking schools. Here on Oahu, we've started with networking support organizations. So those other community-based nonprofits and groups that work with schools and farmers. We're building pilina relationships between all these folks that want to see farm to school happen. So that work is ongoing. And then looking further into the future, as I mentioned, we would love to see additional extension agent positions within CTAR focused on farm to school. And those could, you know, ideally are also permanent positions, and just expanding across all the islands and different communities. I'm excited also to be part of the CTAR Food Systems Network that is sort of evolving from in CTAR Internal Food Systems Working Group. We're going to be doing more to look across the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resilience, what researchers, instructors, and extension agents are working on relating to food systems, and being able to better measure and communicate that out. And then I want to circle folks back to the P20, preschool to post-secondary, agriculture and food systems, education and workforce development efforts. And where that is coming from is 3 years of collaborative efforts to develop a framework of support. What does it look like for every student and every level to have access to agriculture and food systems education? That this is a report to the legislature in 2019, but the vision still stands. This is a graphic from that vision, from that report. And the CTAR positions fit in at this community level. So like myself, I'm an extension agent for Oʻahu, and I'm able to do some of the programming that helps to bridge the school and state level visions. And then also this vision for more of a state level coordination to put all those pieces together, preschool to post-secondary. Okay. Some of our challenges are capacity, just having enough folks to meet the demands and the needs. So I just did want to mention that Kupu Aina Corps has been a great help. I have 2 Kupu Aina Corps members working with me. As my program is a host site for the program. And as mentioned, again, more agents are needed. You know, I didn't talk a lot about the bigger picture of school food, but that work is happening. And unfortunately, it seems to be happening in parallel or separate places, and somewhat of a divergent approach. You know, our network, and I think most communities that I've ever talked to want to see farm to school as a vehicle for community food self-sufficiency. In other words, local farmers feeding their own local schools. That has been the call to action. So, you know, farm to school can be done in a very industrial, very centralized model. However, that has not been the ultimate goal. So, in terms of going forward, you know, just wanting to scale impact and stay on a Pono course by combining these visions and planning efforts. And with that, I will say mahalo nui.
Oh, mahalo nui, Lydi. That was a great presentation. You're doing amazing work over there. I've also posted in the chat a link to the Hawaii Farm to School Network and that report that you had up from the University of Hawaii. So folks can check that out, and feel free to use the Q&A feature again to address any questions to Lydi. She can handle those as Laura does her presentation. Over to you, Laura.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share screen. Okay, all good? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Ediger. I'm Director of Strategy and Operations at GoFarm Hawaii. And I'm going to tell you today about the program and about what we've been up to, what our vision is, how this all connects to what other people are doing in the food system as well, and some of our challenges and what we are dealing with. So about GoFarm Hawaii, we are also under, oh no, Lydi, I need to update this. We're also under CTAR, but it's now the College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resilience, as Lydi mentioned. We're under cooperative extension. So our office is based in Mānoa, but we are statewide. So we have farm training locations on 4 islands across the state. And this is where you can find out more about us, our website, and also on Instagram and our email address. So a little bit about our vision and mission. We say, so this is our official mission, to enhance Hawaii's food security and economy by increasing the number of sustainable local agricultural producers. So we offer those with an interest in agriculture a combination of knowledge, experience, and support to reach their full potential. So there's a lot in here, but just to unpack it a little bit, we focus really on supporting aspiring and existing farmers. So you may be a farmer who is already in operation, but you could use some help with either your business or your production planning or marketing, things like that. We are here to support you. We're also here to support people who want to get into farming, and maybe they have land, maybe that's just been a dream, maybe they want to switch careers. We have a program that will help them get into farming. The second paragraph here is really also just addressing a little bit of that farming is a political act in many ways. And so to recognize the history and the cultural context, we work with all kinds of different producers, people who have just arrived, people who have been here for multi-generations, people from all different ethnic and demographic backgrounds. But we recognize the context of this, the history of this. And so we work to include this in the way that we teach and in helping people to understand the context of what they're doing. And we also have specific efforts to address and support underserved producers and Native Hawaiian communities as well. So this is what I always say when we're starting, I'll share the first phase of our program is called Ag Curious. And so this is where we invite people to an informational webinar to learn more about it. And this is something I talk about in terms of why does GoFarm Hawaii exist? We've been around for 20 years now. We started really focused on the business consulting for existing farmers. And then in 2012, we started the training program, which is we're more known for now, but we still do the business consulting as well. And when we talk about where the demand is coming from, so we've been operating since then, we still see consistent demand for people wanting to go through the program and finding value in it. And we really see this as a movement that's coming from a lot of different places. It's not only coming from policymakers and Governor Ige's saying that he wanted to double local food production by 2020, I think, and then it became 2030, sort of a elusive goal. But it's also coming from consumers, it's coming from community, and it's coming from farmers itself. This is a trend actually across the country, but the average age of farmers is 60. Sort of a broader socioeconomic question of what that's going to look like 20 years from now. But what we can do right now is start bringing in more farmers to add to this pool and really training up people and supporting people to make it an economically viable career choice and livelihood option. These are, too fast. These are our program sites, so you can get an idea of where we're at. Here on Oʻahu, where I'm sitting now, we have 2 sites, one in Waimanalo and one in Kamananui. So we're located just behind Wailua High School. 2 really different environments and 2 really different farming communities. And so, people kind of choose which site based on their geographic location and also where they think they may end up farming. So Waimanalo, our site, that really covers, you know, Ko'olaupoko, and all town people tend to go towards Waimanalo, whereas our other site, Akamananui, is really people that are in the North Shore and West Side will often go to that site as well to learn. And yeah, those have been active. Each of those are now on cohort. I think Waimanalo is now on cohort 16, and the North Shore site at Kamananui is now on cohort 14, I think. So we've had several cohorts come through both of those sites. And there's a history in which I can share that's also really brought through collaboration. So that was a collaboration initially with Windward Community College for the Waimanalo site, and with Leeward Community College on the other site. So we're also on Kauai. We're based on the KCC campus, Kauai Community College campus. We have a site on Maui, which is in the Central Valley there. And then on Hawaii Island, we're in East Hawaii, just north of Hilo. And on the right side, you can see just a short description of for our main core training program. This is what the program phases are. So we start with a webinar, informational webinar, Ag Curious. We go on to Ag Exposure. These are all application-based. So you apply to go to the next phase. So in Ag Exposure, we take a group of about 25 and we spend 5 weeks. We teach a weeknight class, and then we also go to different farms on the Saturday. We have a work day. They get to experience the work, learn something hands-on, and then also see a variety of different types of farms and business models, just again, expose them to different types of farming options and what it really looks like in practice. If they choose to apply, they can go on to the next phase, which is Ag Excel. At that site, they're actually with us at our site. They have their own plot where they're going to grow vegetables and sell them in a CSA vegetable subscription model. 7 or 8 weeks, 7 customers. So they do everything themselves. We provide the seeds and we help them develop the plan. But other than that, they're managing their own plot. And they go everything from planning, planting, management, cultivation, harvest, and sales. So we teach the production side, and we also teach the business side. After that, if they don't have land options but want to continue and start their new farm, they can go on to incubator. We have areas on each of our farms where you can actually start your own farm. So you can continue to use some of our infrastructure, be supported by coaches, but you're on your own at that phase, and starting your own farm business. So just a few stats when we do an annual report. So I was looking at our annual report and seeing what I might pull from it to share today. So if you look at how many people have been coming through, so just that initial informational webinar, so that gives you an idea of just demand and interest in the program. So we've had over 3,000 people participate in that, which is a nice number to hit as a milestone. Our Ag Incubator program, we've had over 100 farmers now that have participated in that program, running their own farms on our site. And from the main part of our program, which previously we had a different phase program, but effectively Ag Excel, we have over 500 graduates now. Or I think we've hit 600. We do have a lot of partners and funders. So we do a lot of collaboration. This isn't something where we are going off and just operating in isolation. So obviously CTAR, which I got the name right here, is a huge collaborator. We work closely with faculty and staff. A lot of the extension agents under CTAR are helpful in coming out to our classes, teaching our weeknight classes, teaching about integrated pest management or soil health. A lot of professors also doing that. And really, we like to have this back and forth it's great to have that resource. And also part of what we want to do is connect these aspiring farmers to the broader community. Once they start on their own, what kind of resources and network and support do they have? We also have listed here, the people who host our sites. So our sites are hosted by Corteva and Mahipono, Kamehameha Schools, in addition to being at one of the university's research stations and at Kauai Community College. And then we have a lot of other organizations. We love to collaborate with other people in the training space so that, people aren't, again, either being redundant, duplicating efforts, that we're making everything be more effective and more efficient by working together. Our business team will often teach classes as part of other farmer training programs. Maybe they don't have the business expertise in-house, so we'll come in and teach a class about marketing, about sales, about cash flow projections. So we're happy to always plug into what other people are doing that way. And we're part of, just broader initiatives. We partner with a lot of people who maybe they have producers and then their producers have challenges, and they'll connect us connect us to them as a way of providing additional support. On the right side, a little bit about funders. Quite a bit of our funding is from at the federal level, mostly from the USDA. We also have some private funding. We like to get the county levels involved in supporting, because they also are supporting the, within their county, the agricultural economy. And then groups like Kamehameha Schools, and then some private foundations as well. So as I mentioned, we do the production training, so how to plan, grow, harvest, process, focused on vegetables as the teaching material, but more broadly applicable to other things people may be growing as well. Also, we find that the business training is very important, and maybe it's not what people expected to learn when they came in, but it's one of the most important pieces. And we see that again in terms of the exit surveys and what people say was really practical and useful for them. And that's, all those things. Most people coming through the program have not necessarily had a small business before. So all those things that go into it, setting up, establishing, running a business, those pieces are just as important to running a farm. You can grow something, but if you can't sell it, if you can't manage your business, if you don't know how to pay taxes, you're not going to last very long. In addition to the content, a lot of the value of the program is the networking. So you go through in a cohort. We have a cohort training model. So that cohort is really strong relationship forming setting. And then also we're constantly connecting you to other farmers in the area where we're based, alumni, extension agents, lenders, grant writers, all those people that are going to end up being huge supports for a farmer to actually be successful. I just want to share a few stories briefly. These are people selected here partly because they're across different islands, and also they have social media, so you can look at them up and check them out and kind of see a little bit more of their day-to-day, what they're selling, what they're up to. Top left, we have a couple on Kauai. So they were in our incubator program and then recently transitioned to their own farm. They're doing awesome. They're primarily farmers markets. They do a lot of value-added products. So they do pestos and dressings and things like that. That's been the direction that they decided to go. On the bottom left, the Hiki Acres, they're at our Waimanalo site. They're also transitioning onto their own farm in Waimanalo. They primarily do farmers market. So they're at the Kailua farmers market. They also have a website. You can order direct. You'll see them on some restaurants in town. That right now they're primarily selling to Fet and Namikaze, and do some value added kinds of things as well, and sell seeds as well, do seed contracts. On the bottom right, you have Kaiviki, so they're on Hawaiʻi Island, again, just north of Hilo. And they've done a little bit more of an agroforest style, but still have a vegetable market garden system as part of one of their key revenue sources. And the top right, hopefully everyone has heard of FarmLink and checked it out. So Rob Barreca went through our program, and they had counterculture for a while, so they were growing veggies and doing ferments. And now it's currently FarmLink and Hawaii Banana Source, as he's involved in both of those operations. So really what this reflects is that we have all kinds of different people come through the program, different locations, huge range of age and background and experience. But what we really see is the consistency is that question about, the passion for local food production and for building a better food system. And so we're really here, we don't spend time convincing people that they should be farming or that farming is important. They're coming to us because they've already identified this as a goal and something they want to be part of. And we're just helping them have the practical skills and support and guidance to actually make that possible. So a little bit about how this works. I'm just going to skip to the Ag Excel part, which is the core, to give you an idea about what we're doing during this time. So this is a 7-month course. We're doing 1 weeknight class, and then we're doing, which varies depending on the site, and then we do Saturdays in person at the field. So you're learning on the weeknight online class, you might learning about irrigation, and then on Saturday, you're going to put it into practice and put together an irrigation system and learn about how to water and feel the soil and learn, what to do at that site. We tell people they need to expect to commit to at least around 20 hours per week in addition to class. So they're going to be coming in on their own and managing their plot. We do have weekly readings and assignments. We like to say that it's an adult learning environment, meaning, we're not going to check in on you every week. Did you finish your homework? Did you do the quiz? It's not like that. You're really going to get out as much as you put into it. It's an infinite amount that you can learn. So it really depends on the time you have available, your level of curiosity, your ability to continue to learn as you grow up, I guess. So yeah, you have a 1/16 acre plot. You're going to market and sell your crops. And you're going to develop a business plan. The other big assignment is that by the end of the course, you're going to do a business plan and present that to your peers and an external panel and get feedback. We have a lot of different classes and topics that we cover. Again, on the business side, this is production planning, it's your cash flow, it's marketing, record keeping. On the production side, you know, we pack in as much as we can. So you're going to learn the basics of plant biology and soil nutrients. You're also going to learn about what kind of farm equipment might be appropriate for a small scale. You're going to learn about irrigation, pest control, post-harvest, food safety, all the things that you're going to need to know. And a lot of this is, you know, we're going to give you the initial information and then connect you to resources where you can always come back because it's too much to learn and absorb in just one time, at just one time. These are samples of the kinds of things we grow. We grow a lot of different vegetables, partly because, you know, we've identified for each site varieties that grow well there. And then also we want people to be exposed to a lot of different things so they learn what they do like to grow, what they don't like to grow, and are starting to develop a sense of what they want to do moving forward in terms of their production. But at each of our sites, we do a lot of other things besides veggies. So we do a lot of nitrogen fixing trees, a vetiver to manage water movement and control erosion. So people often ask, you know, do you teach permaculture? Do you teach K&F? Not specifically, but a lot of what we showcase and demonstrate in terms of site design really looks at wind, water, climate change, like how we want to set up a site to work well. And although the students aren't responsible for growing longer term crops like kalo and olena in their own plot, we always have these on site so that they get experience working with them and they're exposed to the things that we don't have time for them to grow during the 7 months. We also have fruit trees on site as well. These are different, again, for each site has a little bit of a different mix of things, just depending on the climate. We do focus on what we would call regenerative farming techniques. So a lot of people come in, again, with a very sustainability, organic agriculture mindset. We're trying to teach them in a little bit more of an agnostic way, just to how to problem solve, how to find resources, how to make your farming business successful. But we do focus on lower no-till methods. We do a lot of cover cropping introduction. We talk about rotation. We talk about mulching, these kinds of good best practice methods. And in terms of what we implement, we are in line with organic practices, but none of our sites are certified. Just a little bit about incubator if they go on. So if they've done well in Ag Excel, they can apply with a business plan and we review that and decide who's a good fit for the program. They can rent land starting at 1/8 of an acre for a low rate that gets them access to water, to the tractor, to the cold storage, to the wash pack facilities, and to ongoing coaching. So it's a really good deal, but we want it to be a low risk, low investment way to get your farm started. And it's really a chance for them to try it without committing, right? Maybe it's not a good fit. Maybe it's not going to work. A lot of the reason people maybe don't end up farming has a lot to do with just personal life and other commitments. So it's better for them to try it here and have it not work out than to buy a farm and then find out. They can stay with us for up to 3 years. I mentioned what they have access to, and you can also apply for a gap year in between the program and incubator. A lot of what we do is also supporting existing farmers, whether they've come through our program or not. Anybody has access to this as a free service. And so our business team supports those business classes that I mentioned. And we also provide consulting support across Hawaii. And this may be financial planning, product development, land assessment. Is this a good farm for me to buy or not? Like, how should I lay this out? Those kinds of introductory consultations. And more. And we do a lot of connecting with other organizations for additional support. Like we might connect you to, ORCD for you want to do conservation planning. We connect you to the NRCS and FSA for grants and for loans. And we connect you to, well, OACA is no more, but now ORCD as well, but for grant writing support. Just gives you a sample. We work with a lot of different clients, and this is in our annual report, but just wanted to reflect here that you might see familiar names, and there's a lot of people across the state that we're working with. Our priorities and goals. I would say that, when we look at our programming is a little bit different every year. We have this core program that I mentioned, but we're also always looking to the community to see what the needs are. So we want to be responsive to demand and understand where do we need to diversify both the topics and the training models. So in the last few years, we've added courses on orchard because we do have people that are not going to grow veggies. They have orchards or they're going to be growing orchards. So we wanted to add courses on that. We also added a course last year on agrifloristry, so flower production, and looking at how we expand our impact by partnering with farmer instructors as well. A lot of what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we can train you, we can help you develop these skills, but what about these major systemic barriers like land access, which is a huge issue for people wanting to farm? And so we have a variety of different ways that we're looking at how we can help people identify, evaluate, and then actualize their land opportunities. So we have a few specific programs where we're putting more time towards this and developing more resources towards this, because we think this is an important issue that we don't see being addressed. And so again, this is kind of looking across the landscape. Where do we see gaps? Where is there something we can do? And let's do a program. And also collaboration, I would say, is really key. We do so much. We spend so much time developing those partnerships, building Pilina, and really aligning with partners to see how we can support them, how they can support us. Where do we go in with grants together, do programming together, and really look at those ways of increasing our impact. We also co-facilitate, I wanted to mention, ag training and TA Hui, technical assistance Hui, and that's other people across the state who are providing technical assistance, looking to coordinate and collaborate rather than duplicate efforts. Last slide. If we think about challenges, of course, there are some, many. I would say, we are under the University of Hawaii, so we pride ourselves on being very adaptive and agile. And also we exist within an institutional context. So having those two, holding those two things, working within the reality of that is always going to be a challenge. I would say also, it's a very interesting place to be within the food system landscape, is to be working on this issue. And I would say some of the important work that I think we do more or less, like maybe intentionally or just through our work, is to really shift the narrative about what kinds of farms are going to make our food system goals possible, and whether or not what the role that small farms have to play in this. And I think just continuing to tell the stories of our farmers that go on to be successful, to have viable livelihoods, and to talk about the role that small farms play in the ecosystem, I think is really important. And I think also the fact that we provide a very practical and hands-on type of education is really valuable, but is not always recognized for the value that it provides. So when people look across and say, what kind of education is needed, what kind of training is needed, they don't necessarily look at this kind of non-traditional, very practical education as being a solution for the kinds of problems we're facing. Happy to answer any questions, and just want to give a shout out again to our collaborators and our supporters. And thank you all for coming and for listening today.
Mahalo nui, Laura. That was an amazing presentation. You guys are doing fantastic work over there. It's really incredible. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the next presentation, and I'll hand it over to Jeannette now.
Aloha, Vakea. Mahalo for having me here today. And I am really good at going fast. So that is what we're going to do. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, cool. So I'm here to represent Māla, and we are the home to the Hawaii Island School Garden Network. And that actually is a really interesting thing, because we weren't always the home to High Sign. And so that's part of what I'm going to share today. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so who are we? Māla's vision is a Hawaii island where all our residents are empowered to live meaningful lives through meaningful lives through good stewardship of themselves, their families, their community, and our shared island and world. Our mission is to cultivate connections between people, land, culture, and food through school gardens. And we do this by engaging teachers and students in Aina-centered experiential learning to nurture all learners in body, mind, and spirit. Now that's a mouthful, I recognize that. And that's, that's what we put in all of our promotional materials. But really at its heart is that we believe that gardens and outdoor spaces are really critical for helping students to understand themselves and understand their world. And that connection to place, particularly in Hawaii, in our moku where we live and thrive, is a really important part of holistic well-being of students, and that by taking students outdoors, that they become connected in ways that can't happen inside. And so what that means for us on a very practical level is that we embody those values or that vision and mission in our two programs. Our flagship program is Māla, the Culinary Garden of Waimea Middle School. So that garden is now almost 20 years old. It's our flagship program. So it was started at Waimea Middle School about 20 years ago in response to high rates of obesity and diabetes in the community, and a community-driven effort to shift that. And so the garden was started, and we partner with Waimea Middle School and engage their classroom teachers to bring learning outdoors. Last year, for example, we partnered with science and PE teachers and Hawaiian studies teachers to line their curriculum to learning outdoors. And in that process, we had over 5,000 student hours, 134 volunteer hours, and harvested about 2,000 pounds of food that we use in our garden classroom, and then also allowed the kids to take home with them into the broader community. Our second program is the Hawaii Island School Garden Network, and that's kind of what I'm going to share a little bit more about today. The Hawaii Island School Garden Network serves about 72 schools across the island, and we are a partner to the Hawaii Farm to School Network that Lydi had mentioned. And our main sort of focus on this island is working with island teachers through professional development, mentorship, and technical assistance across Hawaii County. And so a little bit background of High Sign, I think, is really important to understand. High Sign was started in 2019 under the Kohala Center. And I say started because that was the official home of it, but it was a small group of a small but mighty group of women who really led this effort on the island. So huge mahalo to Nancy Redfeather, Mingwei Ko, Amanda Ryu, and Wendy Baker, who kind of took on a lot of work when Nancy retired, because that hui of folks, with the support of others like Lydi across all of the islands, really helped to breathe life into the network. And through that work, that very sort of amorphous network, I'm talking about it as High Sign, but recognize that it actually was a lot more expansive than just the folks on this island. Developed the Hawaii School Garden Curriculum Map, and also hosted the Kuaina Pa program, which is a teacher professional development program that really kind of, I think, led the way for a lot of what we're seeing happening. And again, I say that it was part of High Sign, but really it was both High Sign and both not High Sign in that era. But in 2019, the Kohala Center sort of had let go of the network, and Mālaʻai stepped in because we're right next door. We stepped in to become the home of High Sign, and in that stepping in process, really began to think about what does it mean to be the hub of a school garden network on the island. And in the few years since we adopted High Sign, it's gone through various different iterations. But really today, I think that what I can say really is the core of what we do is that we're looking to address the needs of our school garden educators on this island. So every year at the beginning of the year, we outreach to our educators to kind of better understand what they're facing. And every year without fail, the three needs kind of percolate to the top. One is a need for connection with each other. The second need is for teacher professional development. And then the third and constant need is our school garden resources, trowels, hoses, wheelbarrows, things like that. Those are really hard to come by when you're a garden educator. And so what we're looking to do today is to really kind of meet the needs, lean into the fact that we're a network of educators and meet those needs. So we're prioritizing connections in Moku-centered networks. And what that means is that we are starting things like school garden work days, starting things like Moku meetups, which are specifically for garden educators, sort of like a pauhana skills sharing after school thing, but really just creating space for educators in their own Moku to meet each other and to kind of problem solve around shared challenges that they're facing. And then we're shifting to Moku-based learning, again, leaning into this idea that our island is really large and that the networks of educators on our island really need to be super local so that we can support and lean on each other. And then the third area that we're hoping to breathe life into, and this is sort of aspirational, is resourcing school gardens. We do it in a small capacity through school garden work days, where we, when a school hosts a work day, they get funding for resources. But I'm hoping to really begin to grow that program because it is such a profound need. And then the goals, challenges, and partnerships. So the one of our goals in the next 3 to 5 years is to really adopt sort of like an extension model. I think that you know, extension agents and the need for them has come up a couple times already today, and for good cause, right? That we need that, and particularly on this island, where we have, you know, it takes 4 hours just to get to the other side. There is a need for support folks around the island, and so we actually have started to do that a little in Puna. Our newest high sign person is in Puna, and is really focusing on the schools in that Moku and maybe the adjacent Moku. Another thing that's sort of goal/challenge are the public-private partnerships that fund positions and resources to school gardens, right? On Hawaii Island, there's a lot of momentum and a lot of cooperation across sectors, but we really need to dig into that and figure out ways to make it work so that we meet the needs that are being articulated with by our educators. And then the last thing is probably more of a it's also a goal and a challenge. Moku-centered partnerships, and when I say partnerships, I really am kind of leaning into the idea that that the work of school gardens and educating students towards that that future in agriculture starts in schools, but it happens in so many other places. And so our goal is to engage community partners across the Moku and support that networking, because we know that it already happens, but we can find ways to improve those connections and help it grow with the idea that that students will learn better in school gardens. And so I am now at time and appreciate the opportunity to kind of run through, but happy to answer any questions that folks may have.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeannette. And just thank you to everybody. Those were amazing presentations. Everyone's doing such great work out there. It's like so many different levels of education going on between, you know, different student ages, educators, and just the networking and community coming together. These are some of the best things about these programs, I think, and just educating folks about our food system in general. So we still have a few minutes to put questions through the Q&A, but I had a question for everybody here. Just wondering, like, you know, how we could, as the Kale Mal Center, help you folks out in your individual organizations with things like, research, education, policy analysis, things like that. Any thoughts on that? Anyone can grab that one.
I would love to see pieces of work that really contribute to the vision of what our post-plantation agricultural systems could look like. And I feel like that's a little bit of a gap. And I know like researchers maybe like to focus on very specific questions, but things that work towards that kind of address some of these current narratives and possible for different narratives that I think would help to just shape the way that people think about it, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, and I was curious too, Laura, like what is, do you have like sort of like an emerging type of student that comes out of post-secondary education, like from the UH system, for instance, that comes to GoFarm? Is there sort of like a theme with that, like a department or an area of study that you get more folks from?
I didn't really talk about our participants, but the average age of our participants is 40 and ranges from 18 to 75. So we don't have a lot of people that are coming straight out of college or something, but we do have some people like from Leeward Community College, they'll come to GoFarm, do GoFarm as their part of their internship requirement. So that's been really effective way for people to kind of level up and get more practical skills. But other than that, it's really a huge range of backgrounds.
Okay, so slowly getting the age 60 at least down to 40 now.
Yeah.
Awesome, mahalo. Lydi or Jeannette, any thoughts?
Right. So Farm to School is really a national movement, and the National Farm to School Network has a great benefits of farm to school document that's, evidence-based in the areas of economics, education, environment, health. So I think we need more Hawaii-based research that shows the benefits of garden-based learning, programs like Farm to School that expose children to local food, to growing, right? And how that feeds into the bigger vision of local sustainable island food systems. I also really like what Laura said about changing the narrative about the value and the real critical importance of small farms, and then community-based hubs that aggregate food. This work is already happening. I don't know that it's being communicated or properly included in the higher level planning efforts. And then just school gardens, right? I think people might think, oh, that's nice to have, cute, very good, but it's actually just the foundation in my eyes. So as Laura mentioned, sort of uplifting the value of these pieces that are being held by many, more on an individual or community level, and bringing those up. Thanks.
Yeah, mahalo. Yeah, I agree. And it's, it's that whole like just getting folks to these foods and like just creating that ono, I think that kind of perpetuates this. Any thoughts, Jeannette?
Yeah, I would, mahalo Lydi for kind of bringing up the need for research on how place-based education and garden-based education, improves the outcomes of our students. I kind of skipped through things a little bit just due to timing, but one of the really most exciting things that we have going on at High Sign is a soon to be launched program. Is a teacher professional development program that we're looking to take educators to sites that are both Mauka and Makai in their moku, so that they can learn the mo'olelo of that place and how the people of that place, the caretakers of those places are creating abundance in their moku. And the idea behind that is that that incorporating that sense of place, which is part of the school, I'm going to get it wrong, Hawaii School Garden Curriculum Map. We're kind of shifting into this mode of pilina aina, right? Like that how do we shift from sense of place to piwina aina and really lean into the fact that our places and the stories of our places can create social and emotional wellness and safety that is the precursor for student learning and thriving. And so so that's kind of what came to my mind when Lydi was sharing. And I know that we're over time, so I want to respect that. So I'll plug for research on education.
Yeah, mahalo. Yeah, I think that connection to place is super important and often overlooked in this work. So yeah, just wanted to mahalo our panelists and all of our guests. You know, again, please check us out. Check out this QR code on the final slide here and pose any questions to keaumau@hawaii.edu. And thank you again, everyone, for coming. Have a great day. Aloha.